Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And for those watching us in a different time zone, good morning or good evening, wherever you are. And my name is Marilyn. I'm the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS. And we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learners and action takers to transform and thrive in all aspects by co creating customized programs with our world class resources. So, we have served over 3,000 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries, and that includes Petronas, Sony Mobile, PruLife UK, Ayala Group, Tencent, Chevron, Jollibee Foods Corporation, and Shell, to name a few. The reason why we are organizing several interventions including this interview, is to help leaders who don't know how to stay relevant and adapt to the next normal, those who find it stressful to lead and ensure performance of a remote team, and for those who are afraid that they cannot keep their team or their business in this current situation. So to be able to stay relevant and stay to and continue to lead effectively in any situation, do join us in the interventions that we have been organizing. And for today, I'm so excited and it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our leader for today. Her name is Wulan Ranny. She is an experienced practitioner of human resource from Indonesia. During her more than 21 years of career experience, she handles all HR functions with strengths in talent acquisition, talent development, organization transformation, employer branding, employee engagement in the retail, advertising, and tech industry. She believes that happiness is contagious. When you work happily, everyone around you will see it and feel it, and it will motivate them. And for her, there's no finish line in learning about humans and their capabilities. And she's currently also active as the Indonesia country lead at Asia HRM community, which where I actually met her, and the community at Asia HR Women Club, where I'm also part of. So, without so much further ado, I'd like to bring in Rani. Let me just. Okay. Are you on mute now? Can you unmute?
Hello.
Hi, Rani. So I just
Hi.
you. I hope I gave justice to your introduction. And
Thank you so much.
maybe before I proceed to the questions, maybe I can share how I can meet you. Like although I've mentioned that we generally meet in Asia HRM, right?
Yeah, correct.
Community being both part of it, but at the same time, we also have our own private conversation or interview where I really enjoyed our conversation, and I said like, it's about time to bring it also in front of others so that they can hear your message as well. And I'm super excited because I work a lot with HR leaders like you, and I'd like you to really share your message as well to others, right?
Of course, of course. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine. So let's get started so our
Yeah,
audience can
sure.
get as much value. And for the audience who are joining us live and probably even for the replay, feel free to, join us, engage with us, or even post your question for sure. Rani and I are very active as well in social media, especially in LinkedIn and Facebook. So if you have any questions, feel free
Yeah,
to post
agree,
in
agree.
yeah in
Because,
the comment section as well.
yeah.
And wow, we were just getting started and we're already getting comment from
Oh,
uh Abby. Hi Abby, thank you for
Abby,
joining us
hi.
live. Yeah, so anyway, let's get started so that our audience will get a lot of takeaway, probably be inspired with all your messages or your sharing, which I'm
Sure.
so excited about. So to start with, I
Yeah.
actually the first three questions would normally is for us to be able to understand from which
Mm.
perspective you're coming from. the 4 to 6 question, I would say, would be the meaty or juicy part of the conversation, where we will get like your insights from your experience. And the last 2 questions will be, of course, your chance to be Miss Universe with my two Miss Universe questions that I'm gonna ask.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, to start with, please do share with us, Rani, your leadership experiences. If you do have like some favorite
Mm,
influencers you'd like to share with us, feel free to do so. And if you are inclined to use like specific leadership styles in your current leadership role, feel
mm,
free to
mm.
share with us as well.
Okay. Talking about leadership experience is really like a journey for me. Why? Because like I actually learning by doing, and I really not focusing only on a one style of leadership. That's
Mhm.
why like people always think seeing me Rani as a very like a rock and roll leader kind, because I really just adapt and then adjust here and there when it comes to leading people. Because for me, when we do, leading a team, when we lead a team, we need to also adjust and see what will be the best way to help them to grow together with us, right? So that's why I am not that kind of person who will stick to one kind or one style of leader. And if you're asking about who influenced my leadership style, I think because since the beginning of my career, I met a lot of um, superior who become my leaders with a very open-minded character, and
Mhm.
they really remind me from time to time that you need to understand other people. You need to stand on their shoes so you can think like them and you know exactly how to help them. So you really need to analyze that. That's why if you're asking like, well, I think all my previous leaders is the big influencer for me because from them I learn how I manage my expectation on leading the team.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And I really love that you've shared that, you have to adapt and adjust your style all the time because you're working with different type of peoples. And obviously, I mean, for most of us, I would say like our leadership style, we would normally learn it from our previous
Hmm.
bosses, superiors, that we work with, right? And that's kind of natural, and that actually gives us also like that responsibility and accountability to also be a good leader, right? um,
Yes, correct.
because like people look up to us, right, as a
Yeah,
leader as well.
agree,
So
agree, agree.
yeah, so thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's kind of simple and yet it's so spot on, right? So I mean, based on what you've shared, although you've mentioned that you have to adapt and adjust on your leadership style and you have to learn based on your experience. So, how would you define or what is leadership for you?
Um, okay, that's a bit very theoretical, but let me try to find a like a how. Let me build a sentence to represent a real leadership for me. For me, leadership is about the way you help others to become better person
Mhm,
and to develop their skill, doing upskilling from their current level
mhm,
and achieve a target as a group. And the group target is it has nothing to do with the company goals, to be
mhm.
honest, for me. Because in leadership, what we want to achieve is how you help them to be in the next level of their career, their life, and having a progress and also doing something better. Which for me, the most important thing is to help them to empower others.
Wow, that's really beautiful. I mean, um,
It seems like a dream, right? But I think that's like even though it is something small, but we do make an effect on any single things we do in life. That's why we need to make sure that we do it in the best way.
Yeah. Although I wasn't able to add in the last words that
Hmm.
you've shared around empowerment and impact, but obviously when it comes to leadership, like what you've said, right? It's all about like how we impact and empower the people that are around us. And with those words, I mean, this actually you've described it as, as leadership for being able to help others to be better, to upskill and to achieve the goals as a group, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's not, we can be called as a self leader or leading
Hmm.
ourselves, right? But at the end of the day, as a leader, you have to have followers as well um, that are around you, following you or helping
Yep.
you, or creating that vision together with you, right? So thank
Yes.
you for that. And in my introduction, I've mentioned about the next normal, and even in
Hmm.
your first answer, you've mentioned already, that um, it's really around adapting and adjusting the styles that you give in. So speaking of that, I mean, um, w- how would you define or describe the new normal or the next normal, based on your current experience?
Yeah. If we are talking about the next normal, I think we are now in a transition mode again, right?
Mhm,
Before was when we are entering the pandemic, like
mhm,
I think everyone feels struggle with that, and then now after get used to it for around 2 and 3 years, and now we need to go to the next level again, right? So when we
exactly.
are talking about next normal, for me, next normal is like another learning stage for all of us to go from the pandemic stage to the endemic stage,
Mhm,
which means we really need to also do some, again, adjustment to make
mhm,
sure that we improve our life, uh, we go to the direction that we want to,
mhm,
but in a very adjust situation. For
mhm.
instance, I think now some companies starting to look back their strategy and thinking about going
True.
back to the office, right? It happens also here in Indonesia. I don't know about the Singapore and any other country, but last week we have that kind of discussion with the Asia HRM, and we believe that hybrid working models is something that we can highlight, and that is something part of the unique selling point that we can highlight when we introduce our company, when we are trying to approach a new generation of people who will work with us in the future, right? So um,
Exactly.
yeah, for me, next normal meaning that another process of us on learning and make some adjustment again to improve our life in a same direction, of course, in a better direction, and of course in a better way comparing to the previous level.
Yes, wow, thank you. It's like you have a magic like ball in front of you
Yeah.
with the answer that you gave us. But again, like, changes is always here. Um we always like face
Yeah.
uncertainties, and all we have to do is really to transition and
Hmm.
make the best thing out of it. You've mentioned adjusting, adaptability, and again, those are the key words in this next normal, I would say, right? um
Agree with that.
yeah, and again, it's all about learning again.
Correct.
It's a different learning that we had experienced when we were entering the pandemic, like what you've
Hmm.
said,
Hmm.
and it's a different learning that we will be facing now. And I've been hearing a lot around the hybrid setting, as well. Previously remote working, now it's more of a
Hmm.
hybrid
Hmm.
setting. And in fact,
Yeah.
here in Singapore, I think soon enough, um,
Yeah.
they are allowing like 75% of the workforce
Hmm.
to report in the office. And what I've heard from Philippines, where I am from,
Yeah.
is also that more and more offices or employees are actually going back to the office as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah, it
that's really
started here also in Indonesia. Now we are already like the government already allow us to come back to the office for 75% of the capacity, and you know what? People start go to back to the office and the traffic is back.
Wow. Thank
So
you. Thank
so you know
you.
the crazy how crazy the traffic in Jakarta, right? So
I
now it
mean, that's
started.
a common problem for both Jakarta and Philippines, to be exact.
Yeah, yeah, agree. Philippines is also facing the same things, right?
Exactly. That's the same comment I got from the client. I mean,
Yeah,
they said like we're just starting to like have people coming back to the office, and obviously, traffic will be one of the worst enemy
yes,
by
yes,
then.
agree.
Yeah. So although even before the pandemic, I would say like leaders or corporate leaders like you or those that you're working with have faced different types of problems as well.
Mm.
So what would you say would be the top three problems that most leaders do face?
I think one that need to be highlighted is the generation gap because the generation gap is there, right? And you know, being a leader is meaning that you have to really understand
Mm-hmm.
what your team struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you need to go deep to each of generation to understand it,
Yes.
and while at the same time on their level, this different generation usually have a really quite strong gap on how they adapt each other. So I
True.
think the first like at the top from the top three, the first problem will be the generation gap. I
Okay.
think that's quite like established, especially now. 2 years ago, we facing about the millennials who start
Mhm.
working, coming to the environment, right? They start their career with a very different comparing to us. I would like to call myself early millennials. I'm not part of the millennials, but let me try to be more young. But while they saying that I am an early millennial, we have a very different way of thinking and different passion and push factor, right? While now the next generation is already started on board on the working environment, so it's
True.
quite different. While we still have people at our level, it's also still there, and especially because the second problem that I feel like the adaptation of
Mm-hmm.
the new digital part. I think
Mm-hmm.
you also realize that during the pandemic, how everybody pushed to understand and really try, at least to say it, mastering the digital part, right? Like right now, if it is not because of the pandemic, I believe we will not have this kind of conversation. I will have the opportunity to meet you,
Mm-hmm.
but because of the pandemic, we grew the network very like wide and very fast
True.
because of the digital tools that we understand and we are learning from time to time, right? So I think that's the adaptation of the digital tools is also the problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the third one, I think the one of the biggest concern that the top leaders now should aware is about the mental health.
Mental health. Yes.
I think everyone will agree with that because for me, this is something that really important. And of course, we all heard about the how we call it the Zoom fatigue that previously become a trend, and then people tend to work long hours because of the how easy they get the access on the digital tools. But turn out if we don't know and we didn't set the limit, then it can be a problems also and you know involve on their life, right? So I think that's the big three that now I think the last three to years it's become the concern that as a leader you need to really focus on also.
Yes, very true, very true. Actually, even before the pandemic came, I have been having conversation with one of
Mm-hmm.
our coach, who's also an IMD professor, in fact, and we were talking about this multi-generational workforce and how you can actually make them work well together. And obviously, because this is like one of the challenges, like what you've mentioned, top challenges of leaders
Mm-hmm.
that do face in making the and again it's all about collaboration. I
Yeah.
think that's also one of the reasons why we had conversation around, virtual team
Mm, mm,
building, where, you
mm.
know, how can we actually make all these different generation meet meet and have to collaborate and work as a team,
Yeah.
right? And again, like, we are blessed, it's more of an opportunity as well, that we
Yep.
get to meet each other because of technology, and because of the events that were happening as well, to keep, like, I think what's good with Asia HRM as well is that, despite the challenges, everyone is doing their best to contribute on how can
Mm.
we actually address all these problems, right? And
Yeah.
similar to, like, our intentions in having this interview, like, to have that, everyone contributing, or everyone, like, thinking out loud on these topics that, or these
Yeah.
challenges that we're facing, to turn it into opportunity. And again, I mean, one of the silver linings that this pandemic has brought about, I would say, would be not only the adaptation of the technology,
Mm,
but the realization of how mental health is important, and is not commonly, discussed in the organizations, right? I mean, you're from human resource, for sure. For you, you get to hear that more often than other departments, right? But
yeah.
then
Yeah.
this is something that, something that, it's not really a taboo. I mean, we still hear
Mm,
that, unfortunately. But again, more and more awareness are being seen even in social media. So that hopefully helps in terms of, like, addressing this mental health, because
yeah.
it's not really about you having a problem on your own. It's really
Mm,
about how can we out address it in the organization, and how this reality can affect the performance of the employees, and as well as how can we actually help, like, whether we're a superior, or like just a colleague, when we know that our colleagues are facing difficulties as well, right? So this are, like, I would say, both an opportunity, as
mm.
well as a
Yes.
challenge, I would say.
Yeah.
And before I move to the next question, because I mean, obviously, we will not leave them with these problems. We will probably help them with the next questions I would ask you. We will help them to address some of these challenges. But I just wanted to, like, flash Abby's message. Hi, Rani. Hi, Marilyn. And he said, I am
I
inspired
mean,
you. You're so kind. You're too
very
kind.
nice of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we
I
also,
learned
like,
a lot from Abin. When I start joining Asia HRM and become the part of the community, and then part of the committees, and I they appointed me to be the country HR leader. I
yeah,
realized how very like a fluid the conversation, and I learned a lot also from Abin, and then also from Rita and Zul also. So while we try focusing on how we can empower others, how we help others to grow their skill and to be a very better version of themselves, right?
yes,
I also have the opportunity to grow my knowledge, my network, and my skill. That's I think something that the world really need right now. How we
yeah,
empower each other, right? That's why
true,
I'm very
true.
happy. It's like it's really a blessing in disguise during this very difficult time. I met a lot of very nice people who
Yeah.
helped me to be a better person. I believe Marilyn, you also feels the same.
Definitely, definitely. And that's the reason why I always, like, emerge myself with, or like, do networking and join communities from around the globe, because again, like what you've mentioned, it's not only that I can get to contribute with what I've learned, with the experience I had, but also I get to learn from all these communities that I'm in, um, and it's always like a win-win, or a two-way thing,
Mm.
right? You contribute, and you get to also, learn out of it. And before I proceed with my next question, I just like to thank Dustin, Sophia, and William for their love. Thank you. They sent us some hearts from Facebook, Facebook
Thank
Live
you, thank you.
for that. So, yeah, I mean, like what I've mentioned earlier, that we will definitely not leave them with just the problem, but
Yeah.
more of like how can they address this problem with the important leadership capabilities and skills that they must have in this next or new normal to continue to
Mhm.
lead effectively. So if you were to probably give us, I don't know, three as well, capabilities or
Okay. I think when we are talking about what kind of how to call it skills or things that you need to highlight if
Mhm.
you become a leader. I think
Yes,
everyone can come with different point of view. But for
true.
me, the most important thing that I believe everyone should have is
Mhm.
communication, the
Oh,
ability to communicate. Remember, communicate is not always about talking, but the most important thing is about listening.
true.
So I think if you asking me to give three top skills, then I won't be able to do that because I will need to really adjust based on the situation that I face when as I mentioned, how I do my style also when I develop my team and I lead my team. But
Mhm.
something that for me need to be really highlighted, the first
Mhm.
one is your ability to communicate with others.
True.
It is not always about talking, but more about how you listen.
Mhm.
By listening, you will try to understand. And something that I really need to put like a bold and underline on it is listening with your heart. Because I think that some of problems that we are facing, people tend to just saying that, oh yeah, I'm listening to you, but not really listening because you need to listen with your heart to make you understand the real situation that people face and help them to find the solution. You cannot see that people maybe they feel burnt out, they got too much pressure, which might sometimes came from their own self, their own
Mhm.
target, right? If you are not listening with your heart, you really
Mhm.
need to understand. That's why I think that's something that I really need to highlight. And the rest, well, you can say it, but for me, communication is number one, and then the second part is you want to ask people to learn, meaning
Mhm.
that you need to show them also. Because
Mhm.
as a leader, usually when people look up to you, they will see you because they adore you, because they feel that you are fit to what they imagine as a, you know, not saying perfect, but yeah, it's sometimes
Mhm.
like the perfect figure for them to help them to grow. Meaning, if
Mhm.
you want to empower them, you need to empower yourself. Show
Mhm.
them that you're still also learning on something.
Mhm.
So those two things, I think that definitely is a must.
Yes,
The
true,
rest,
true.
the rest, please. Let's adjust to the situation that we face.
Yes. And I really love that you've shared these two important things. I mean, like in a blog that we have shared as well, that and research that we have also shared on statistics around leadership uh, skills, right? Definitely 6 out of 10, according to that study, 6 out of 10 of the leadership skills that people leaders must understand is really around communication skills. And imagine 6 out of 10, that's more than half of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're also blessed that we have like now a lot of opportunities to be able to listen more, because when you're online you cannot speak and listen both at the same time, right? You have to wait for someone to, especially if there's also like problems in the internet connection, and there's
Ah,
also
true.
house, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's also like a part of the challenge, right? We want to adopt the technology, but at the same time, that is a limitation that we are facing also, right?
Exactly. And again, because like not it's not that easy as well. Like when you're online, it's not that
Mm.
easy to really engage as much as you can, because there's less uh I don't know if you can see the reaction of the people
Mm.
and all those stuff, the body language, and those non-verbal communications that they use.
Yeah.
Some It's kind of difficult to see that online, right?
So true.
Especially
So true.
like
That's
for
why when we are talking about the human capital or human relation role, the most thing that need to adapt and adjust during the pandemic is how they recognize and also analyze the candidate by only doing the online interview because we didn't do like a really in touch with the person, right? We do it through this online, and sometimes like I think right now like the connection is not really strong, right? That's also the problem. So yeah, that's something, one of the department that really need to improve themselves during the pandemic is the uh,
listen,
yeah, the
communication.
recruitment. Yeah, because of the communication is getting a bit tough than before.
Right, right, right. And I love that you've shared communication. I mean, sorry, continuous learning, because that's gonna
Mm,
be my next question as well. That what do you believe is the role of learning? Obviously, you've mentioned like continuous learning is something that we have to do as even as a leader, right?
yeah,
Even at the
yes.
top level. And so, like, what do you believe is the role of learning, leadership, and transformation in order to thrive in the next
Mhm.
normal?
Okay, let me come from the point of view as my experience. I grow as an HR person, right? So
Mm-hmm.
learning, yes, this is part of our main role that we need to help other people to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having a lunch with a friend today and talking about this, that as a leader, it is not only about how you lead them, give them the guidance, but make sure they are growing.
Yes.
Otherwise, you cannot empower them, right? If they didn't have the opportunity to grow, that's the first thing. So if you are talking about what will be happen with these three things in the next normal, they will be there. This learning, leadership, and transformation will be there, and you really need to like a shape up your knowledge about that, and you really need to upskilling yourself from time to time, because I think these three will be the core of any decision that we will make in the next
Mm-hmm.
normal. Why? We don't know what will wait for us there when everyone is already applied the next normal fully, because
Mm-hmm.
now we are still adjust and adapt and getting ready to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we are already there, the challenge will be different, but still you need to push yourself to learn new things,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to make sure that you live in the right way, because you are part of the leaders that will help them to show them, to guide them to get to where you want to be, right? And
Right.
transformation, it is something that we are now keep doing. That's the process. We need to adapt, we need to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
It will not stop. So if you're asking, are they still important? Of course, they will be very important, as always, right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, that's part of it. It's a process, like what you've said, from learning to, leading ourselves and others as well. And part of it is also like, upskilling,
Mm,
adjusting,
mm.
adapting to be able to transform and be able
Yes,
to really, like, continue to adapt, adjust, and thrive
yeah,
actually in that in the current situation, right? So thank you for sharing that with us. And we cannot highlight more even more how important continuous learning is, right? So yeah. So and I'd like, this will be two interesting questions or final questions that I have for you, because these are very open questions, in fact. So my next question is, if you have a magic wand that you can use, what
okay.
would you do with it?
Mm. That's a very interesting question. If I have a magic wand, well, what I do is I will multiply it um, to the numbers of everyone's in the world that exist,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that they can use it in a better purpose. Sounds a bit too much, isn't it? But yeah, that's I think that's going to be the answer because like um yeah we are living in the world that a lot of situation that sometimes showing us how selfish we are as a human being, right?
True.
So for me, if I have the opportunity to use one magical tool to help me and help others, then that's what I will do. I will multiply it so every single person in the world has it, because it will be like just one time, just multiply it for the whole world, and then they can do the same thing, or they can pursue their dream.
Wow, thank you. I really wish you can actually make use of this magic wand to use this. But in reality, I mean like the way we do, and even through this interview, in fact, right, we already like have a hope to inspire, and to like, through our message we get to touch somebody
Yeah,
else's heart or life,
true,
to be
true.
a better person, or to be empowered through our message, right?
Yeah,
And again, like, with the work that you do as, head of HR in your current organization, plus, the community work that you have been, doing through Asia HRM, that also like somehow multiplying or like distributing magic wands to most HR people, right? Yeah,
I
so
hope
thank
so. I really do hope so that what we are doing right now with the community that will be like the power to help others to grow and be a better version of themselves, because we are not competing each other. That
exactly.
what we want to be is to be better version of ourselves.
Exactly. It's really not a competition, which like some leaders do think
Mm,
they are, in competition with some of their team members, especially if they
mm,
actually came from like being a technical expert moving
yeah,
to a leader, right? Sometimes
yeah,
they feel that there's competition, or I can do that better, so they don't want to delegate it, and sometimes even when I was starting delegating some of and my work with my team, like sometimes like, okay, will I be satisfied with the work that they will do, those kind of questions.
yeah,
But
yeah,
this is like, as a leader, this is something that we have to like go through or surpass to be a better leader ourselves,
yeah.
right?
I think we need to also remind ourselves every morning that let's manage our expectation, right? Because
Exactly.
people face their own struggle, right? And how we set up as the best version of ourselves, it might not be the best version of others. That's why we really need to make. That's actually came from my dad. My father keeps saying
Oh,
that, because I'm quite well, you can saying that I'm very ambitious person.
uh-huh,
So sometimes I really want to set up a very like a perfect target for myself, but my father so always remind me that
uh-huh.
um, you need to manage your expectation. You need to
Ex-
always remember what happen if you fail. What will be your next plan? Because well, even though you try to plan everything in very perfect way,
mm-hmm.
there is still God that will make sure that, hey, maybe He wants to give you a test, so He will make you fail, right? So that's why
Right.
my dad keeps saying that don't be stressed out.
Yes.
At the end
And
of the day, it's happiness is came from your heart. So just do
yes.
it happily. You don't need to be seeing it as like a very big pressure for yourself. Otherwise, people will not feel that you have a very positive vibe. They need to see you as a positive vibe, so people will feel that vibes also and enjoying it
Mm-hmm.
talking to you. That's why I
Yes.
keep reminding myself, hey, you are okay. That's what I do. I'll get. You've been doing your best. Be happy.
Yeah, sometimes it's just about reminding ourselves, right?
Yeah,
About, being satisfied to what we have done, and
yeah.
looking forward to what we can do better in the future. But that's also like a problem of like people who are like kind of perfectionist. Yeah, so
I think both of us need to have another discussion about that.
yeah. So anyway, before I proceed to the last question, I'd like to
Yes.
thank Abby again. He's saying that that's a
Mm.
really interesting question that we just asked you and you answered, and that's what a good leader. Sorry, I cannot read. It's too
Yeah,
small.
he said that it's better to like teach them how to fish rather than giving them the fish,
Oh
which is
yes,
true, right?
definitely.
Like,
True, true. And I believe that's what you do based on the answers that you are, sharing with us. It's really teaching your team on how to fish rather than, spoon feeding them with all the information and what they have to do, right? At least I'm also like, grateful that I've been learning more and more to let go and to also to delegate some of the work that I
mm,
used to do. And so I'm also proud of myself for that.
you've been doing great. You've been doing great, Marilyn. Trust me.
Thank you. So that leads me to my last question, as much as I'm enjoying this conversation. So my
Yeah.
last question is really, if you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be? And if you'd like to share with us your answer, please feel free to do so.
Uh, if I have the opportunity to ask myself, I think
Mhm.
something that I think I am best on answering is only one question.
Okay.
Are you happy with your life now?
Wow.
And my answer definitely yes, I am happy.
That's a beautiful question. Am
Yeah,
I happy with myself?
yes, because at the end of the day, no one will feel happy for you if you are not happy with yourself, right? People wouldn't see it.
Exactly. And again, like, you define your own happiness at the end of the day as well, right?
Correct,
You
correct.
define your own success. And that relates also to one of the, I don't know if it's an article that I have read recently. And it says that, I think it's a quote or an article that I have read recently around the difference between success and satisfaction.
Yeah,
um, and he said that you have to work on satisfaction rather than success, because success is something that others define for you, while satisfaction is something that you feel for you.
yes,
and
yeah.
and then like and that leads to what you have mentioned around happiness, right? At the end of the day, it's like when you are satisfied with yourself and what
Mm.
you have done, right? That definitely makes you happy, right?
Yes, yes, yes. That's why I think like this is all about how you understand your strengths, your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Because before you try to lead others as a leader, you really need to understand yourself. Once
Mm-hmm.
you are able to analyze, understand, and accept this, then you can move forward. That's I think that's like a very um, deep wisdom that I received from my parents that just think about something that you can control before you're taking care about other things.
Yes, very true. I really like how you share that as well. Because not a lot of people like um, are really like depending on themselves for their
Yeah.
happiness, rather than sometimes they depend on others to make them happy, which is
Mm.
in reality it's only us who would probably
Yeah,
stop
yeah.
us being happy, right?
Yeah.
Nobody would.
Of course, and I think one thing that we really need to understand also that, um, hey, I'm not in this level of acceptance through myself
Yes,
by just all of a sudden I become like this. No, the experience teach me to go to this level. I think Marilyn, you also like agree with that, that it is
definitely.
about the learning process that we are doing.
Yes,
Always see a positive side, even you are in a very difficult time.
yes, true.
Lesson learned. Get that, understand that, accept that, and you can move forward. Always move forward because um, that's why when you're driving a car,
Mm-hmm.
like the the side windows is very small, right? The mirror side is very small, but the glass in front of you is very big.
It's very
That's
big.
teaching us that, hey, you can sometimes look at your past, but
Mm-hmm.
more to learning about it, take the experience of it, lesson learned, use
Mm-hmm.
it to move forward in the right direction.
Exactly. Yes. That's really a great lesson for us as well, right? I mean, especially for those who drive it, they can relate on how it works. It's really about like moving forward, looking
Yeah,
forward rather than looking at the past from the
yeah,
rear mirror or in the side
mm,
mirrors, which are
yeah,
like just about our blind spot and all.
yep,
So and
agree.
and also like I'm flashing how Abby is agreeing to your last statement around not really competing with with each other, but rather to yourself, right?
Yeah,
And we can only compete because I think that's also like one of the problems why people have such issues with others, because they
mm,
tend to like compare a lot, which
yeah,
is you cannot really do that, or you cannot really
mm,
compare yourself. I mean, you can look up
mm,
with those people, or like leaders that has gone through or done the things that you want in your life,
yep,
but
yep,
not really to compare it in such a way that we have different
mm,
stories, we have different
yes,
journeys, we
yep,
do have
correct.
different experiences, right? And so that we can always create our own
Mm-hmm.
magic, our own reality, our own
Yeah,
happiness, right? With
agree.
that said, right? So yeah, thank you so much. I knew it this will be a very very interesting and a very authentic conversation with you that definitely has inspired our audience. And before we end this conversation, is there anything that you'd like to leave our audience with, or our listeners with, before we end this interview or conversation?
Okay, since we are talking about leadership, I think something that I really want to highlight that
Mm-hmm.
as a leader is not an easy job. Trust
Mm-hmm.
me, and I think everyone agree with that. But for me, use it as the biggest motivation, the
Mm-hmm.
biggest challenge for you, because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, when you see people go their life, you will feel very happy also about that. So enjoy your life, spend your time in a proper way. Don't forget to take a rest. Love yourself and love your people that value to you, and stay positive. That's something that we can do. And I think with that, like a attitude and that behavior, we can help each other and we can empower each other. Let's go to a very better version of every single person of us.
True, true. Thank you so much. That's a really beautiful message. And I'm sure this has been really inspiring for most of our audience who are listening. And thank you so much for your authenticity. And I really enjoyed and learned so much from you as usual. So thank you, everyone, as well, for watching
Thank
us.
you, Marilyn.
Yes, it's
Such
my
a
pleasure.
pleasure talking to you.
Yes, my pleasure. The pleasure is mine, Rani. So thank you so much again for your time and for your message. It's really inspiring. And thank you so much for everyone who joined us, especially those who joined us live today. And Abby for being so generous with his
Yes.
comments as well and for engaging with us. We appreciate you. And do continue to join us, in creating opportunities in like whatever difficulties or challenges that we're facing right now. Definitely we can actually do something or move towards a world that we believe in, right? And
Yeah.
remember that even the richest investor in the world say that investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever make in your life. So with that, we would like to leave you with this quote that if your action create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thank
day.
you so much.
Stay safe,
You too.
everyone. Thank
Bye bye,
you.
Madeline. Thank you.